Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one's going to be for Season 3, Episode 10, An Inside Man. And let's get straight into it. I thought this was a very fun episode. It ultimately was similar to a lot of the episodes this season, as I've talked about before. The formula of just, let's do this little thing for the rebellion that will somehow come together in the end and help us do something really big. But basing it all around this whole idea of Ezra and Kanan get trapped in an Imperial kind of manufacturing facility, and Thrawn kind of arrives in, locks everything down, more or less kind of has them figured out, and how do they get out of this crazy situation. That made for a very, very fun episode, with some nice action that I felt like at least touched on advancing kind of some character stuff forward, just with regards to Kallus being a big focus in this episode. The reveal that most people already knew, but finally the show kind of acknowledging Kallus is Fulcrum. They all know that now, and it appears that Thrawn has figured it out, or at least has heavy suspicions that it is Kallus, and is just a degree away from kind of coming to the conclusion himself that for sure Kallus is the one informing the rebels and giving them inside information. That felt like a big kind of thing. Ending the episode in the way they did, with Thrawn basically just saying, we have a spy in our midst. Isn't that right, Agent Kallus? Just this idea that there's kind of going to be somewhat of a battle of wits here between Thrawn and Kallus. There's going to be a lot of issues now for Kallus. He may not have as much information for the rebels anymore, and if he does, he's going to have to be so careful to get that information across without obviously making himself out to be the spy very clearly. So I'm thinking we're eventually going to get to a point where he is going to get himself in too deep and is going to have to call the rebels to get him out. That his time as part of the Empire is done. He's helped them enough already. He calls for help. He needs to get out. How do they respond to that? Do they immediately rush to his aid, or what? To me, that's where this is leading, and just the little bits with Kallus in this episode made this one worthwhile, and potentially an episode that I think I will remember by the end of the season. But as I said, the general premise of the episode wasn't, so strong that it was, a really, really good episode. It was just, I think it's the best one in a couple of episodes, and that makes it a little bit more interesting to me. So yeah, the basic premise is, that we're back to Lothal, so we come back there for the first time in a while. It's heavily under Imperial control, and Ezra's not happy about that, but they want to do something there. So we obviously have Ryder Azani's group continuing a certain level of rebellion on the planet, but their manufacturing plans are basically now recruiting everyone, even if they have no experience in, but they've managed to kind of get some plants in there who are purposely sabotaging the Imperial speeders and all of other machinery to help the rebellion. So the demonstration that we get of that is with the speeders. When they get up to 190, whatever speed units they're using, I don't know if it necessarily was miles per hour, or if it was meant to be like the somewhat equivalent of miles per hour, or some sort of Star Wars unit that they didn't mention. But if it stays in 190 for a couple of seconds, engine explodes and basically kills whoever's on it. And they've been doing stuff to the walkers and stuff like that as well. And that's when they decide to go in, because they have an informant kind of in there, and try and sort something out. But the big thing in the episode is Thrawn arrives in. He has come in. There's a special secret Empire plan coming into play that they don't want anyone to know about, and they kind of find out about this, and the key kind of point of the episode is that they want to get these plans. What they end up being is plans to a shielded TIE Interceptor, a new ship, shielded ones, that is basically going to spell the end of Phoenix Squadron, basically, that their pilots, no matter how good, are going to struggle to go up against ships with that level of shielding that this thing is going to have. So they need to stop this from coming into play, and this is seen as a big plan for the Empire. Thrawn is basically making sure nothing goes wrong, and that they will for sure get these in play so they can win. And he kind of starts by immediately kind of asserting himself as in control here, sorting it out immediately by just saying, if you make something, you test it yourself. That way nothing gets out that isn't going to work, basically. So the way he tests this is by the guy who'd been previously sabotaging everything against the Empire. The last speeder that he made is there. They put him on it, and basically on a snow speeder, speeder dynamo thing that stays in place. They ask him to get it to the max speed. He does it, and he wants to he basically overheats it, and it's just like, oh, I have to turn it down. Thrawn puts it on like auto full throttle, and he basically kills him right there and then. Pretty brutal way to do that, and then you see that he's taking no prisoners when it comes to any mistake that is made. Someone later on did something wrong. I think it was not necessarily sabotage, but he made a mistake and he was kind of carted away. We assume he was killed, and that's the kind of gist of what's going on here, that Kanan and Ezra need to get themselves out. They very quickly get themselves out of danger to some degree. They cause an incident, they run off, they're going through the place, and as they escape into an elevator with Kallus. So they're there. He reveals to them in this moment that I can help get you out. I'm Fulcrum. He convinces them with the code word, and it's a big reveal as they're like, no way, you're the one, but they kind of have to believe him. And there were some funny interactions as you kind of see him come over to their side, especially the moments when they're like, okay, we have to make this look convincing. I'm not going to join you guys right now. I still want to maintain my cover here. So what he does is basically like they force push him into a wall, and that's meant to, like, in terms of video evidence, kind of just like meant to make it out that like he at least put up a fight, or at least showed like he was putting up a fight. And just so the rebels can get their one over on him as they go, they kind of leave and saying like, okay, we'll make it even more of a fight. And just so randomly, like, Kanan and Ezra are just talking, and Ezra just turns around and really hard force pushes Kallus through a window. It's in the middle of the thing, like I think it's a kind of screen, a glass screen. He force pushes him like really hard through that to make it like look really good. It was just a really funny moment as like Kanan like immediately just like, why did you do that? And it's not that he scolded him, he's like, I wanted to be the one who did that. So it was just a kind of funny moment that I didn't quite expect. It's kind of humor on the level that the show hasn't really done up to now. It's often been very kind of aimed at kids humor, but this one I just felt like it was not necessarily like adult humor or anything like that. It was just, wow, that one, it was actually just really funny the way they kind of timed that. But I think that's basically all I want to say about the episode. The action was fine. They ultimately led up to them escaping. There was a brief shootout between some walkers, them hiding behind an AT-AT. They got out, Ryder, Azani helped them escape, and they get the plans. Chopper goes in, they get the plans, and they come out. As I said, the real thing that saved this episode was, one, it being one of Thrawn's most heavily involved with episodes, and them really going down this path of maybe he's not going to make a big move against the rebels just yet, but one thing he is going to do is investigate Kallus, and just the idea that we could get this subplot throughout the rest of the season of Kallus and Thrawn both trying to kind of get one over on each other. So I think that is a really interesting plot that definitely made this episode interesting. Without that, I think this would have just been another episode like all of the other ones. It was just a thing for the Empire, but for the Rebellion. But at least this time around it feels like, okay, shielded fighters seems fairly important. So that's been the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. Links in the description to my Twitter, Tumblr, Patreon, and PayPal donation link if you want to support my channel or follow me on social media. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.